Welcome, everybody. We'll still give a couple minutes here and we'll start with intros, but just want to thank you guys for joining us. I'm Jamie Lowe Price. I'm the CEO of the Alliance Fast Pitch, and we're here with our partners NCSA and excited to just bring you guys more information. NCSA is our official recruiting partner, and we've been working together, I guess, 2 years now, and we have seen incredible value in just what NCSA can provide our teams, our coaches, our athletes. So we'll definitely talk a little bit about that, but super fortunate to have 3 college coaches who have experience from all 3 various levels as well. Not just where they're at today, but throughout their careers. And we strategically picked our panel too, one, because they're awesome and very fun to talk to, and also just their backgrounds. And so the level of knowledge that they have, it can provide you no matter what level that you're looking to play. So definitely appreciate all 3 of you spending this evening with us as well. But before we get started, just a quick little plug here with the Alliance. Like I said, we are, NCSA is our official partner. And one of the things when we started the Alliance Fast Pitch, it really was about unity and bringing people together. And through that too, of combining resources. And so looking around, obviously recruiting is one of the most important things and needs and questions that's out there. So it was really important for us as the Alliance to identify the best in the business, in my opinion, and people that truly care about your student athletes and that want to help your student athletes. So very fortunate to work with John and his team from NCSA. And with that, I will toss it over to you, John Puglisi.
Right on. You did. So I'm really excited and feel really fortunate to be here with 3 incredible coaches and obviously Jamie as well. So my name is John Puglisi. I'm one of our managers with NCSA Team Edition. Just quick little high-level overview so you guys understand who we are and how we support you as travel ball coaches who are assisting your athletes with the recruiting process. NCSA Team Edition is your recruit management system as a coach. It is a free resource for you. And when I say free, I don't mean like free, you're going to have to pay for something later. It is truly a free system. It gives you everything that you need to be able to connect with college coaches about your student athletes. And it also provides recruiting education for you, for your parents, and for your players in a library of resources that has over 250 videos and recruiting guidelines that will be able to support you. There's, I think, big picture, right? When we're talking about the NCSA system as the largest network in the world that college coaches, student athletes, and club coaches use, it's really a place for your athletes to navigate their process and to do it in a way that also delivers them education. You know, I think these are my favorite recruiting education setups to do because I think this is where we can really get you information from the people who you want to be recruiting your student athletes, who have a wealth of knowledge, and then deliver that to you in a way that you can take it, you can use it to support your athletes. And so I'm thrilled to be here. We have an unbelievable panel of coaches. And I'm going to allow them a little bit just to go through and introduce themselves real quick. And then we'll get into like high level ideas. As Jamie mentioned, if you have questions specifically about the recruiting process and ways that you can support your athletes, please throw them into the Q&A. We'll get to them if we can. We'll get you answers afterwards if we have to, but we'll definitely try and hit on all the major topics related to the recruiting process, video stats, profiles, connecting with coaches to develop relationships. So Coach Depking, I'll let you kind of start here just with a quick little intro.
Oh, lucky me. My name's Shannon Depking. I am currently the head coach at Syracuse, going on my 5th year. I've kind of been all over the place. I started my coaching career at FDU where I was a graduate assistant. After that, I went to Stony Brook and was an assistant there. After that, I got my first head coaching job at Amherst College, which is Division III. I thought I wanted to go into administration, so I went somewhere where I could do dual roles and decided after my first year there that, I wanted a little bit more softball. So moved on to Dartmouth College, which is in the Ivy League. Spent 4 years at Dartmouth, and then obviously landed here at Syracuse. So I've kind of been all over the place. Been to Division III, been to mid majors, been obviously Power 5. So I'm really, really happy to be here. I think that panels like this are really, really great because as helpful as it is for you guys, I think our ability to help educate helps everybody, including us, makes this process a little bit easier. So super stoked to be here.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Coach Winters, I'll throw it to you next.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everyone. I'm Mallory Winters. I am currently the assistant coach at Butler University in Indianapolis, Indiana. I played 4 years at Butler University myself, and then after school, spent 7.5 years working at NCSA, actually the last 1.5 with John and with Team Edition. So something that's pretty close to my heart. I spent a lot of time there working with great athletes and great people before jumping back into softball full-time and coaching. I spent 2.5 years at Lewis University, which is a Division II in Romeoville, Illinois. And I guess my time prior to Lewis, I was coaching travel in the Chicagoland area for about 5 years. So I've been in a lot of your seats working with the high school student athletes directly and spending all my PTO at travel tournaments in Peoria and Iowa City and all over the place. And then I actually got to come back to my alma mater, Butler, this past June. So I am in my first year back at Butler and first time coaching in Division I, and excited to be with all of you.
Thank you. And a former Team Edition user as a travel ball coach as well. Just quick little plug. Coach Bratton, I'll throw it to you.
Yes, Tyler Bratton, associate head coach at Mississippi State University. A little bit of a unique route to get to this point. I was not highly recruited out of high school. It's funny, I tell our players every now and then, we'll kind of get the story, man, how was the recruiting experience for you? And I said, well, it's 2002, it's a long time ago. There wasn't Twitter yet, so we didn't have a chance to quite be out there as much as the current generation. But I went to the junior college route, played junior college baseball, had one offer out of high school to go to East Mississippi Community College. Most of you people probably know it from the Netflix documentary or the Netflix series Last Chance U. So I went to Last Chance U, and I had opportunities to play football. I had way more recruiting opportunities for college football than I did college baseball, but baseball was the dream. I wanted to pursue that route, and that's what I ended up ultimately doing. And played there 2 years, developed, grew an awful lot as a person, and then worked my way to Mississippi State. I was an outfielder at Mississippi State University. It's a dream school of mine. I grew up as a little kid going to all the Mississippi State baseball camps. So was thrilled to have that opportunity to continue my career after junior college at Mississippi State. And from then I went into being a student assistant when I was in grad school, finished my career there, went right into the coaching route, was with the Ron Polk his last year before he retired. And at 23 years old that summer, John Cohen, who's now the athletic director at Auburn University, was hired to be our head baseball coach, and he hired me to be the director of operations. It was the first time that we had an ops position at Mississippi State University. So I did that and learned a tremendous amount from him for almost 6 years. And that got me into softball till January of 2014 when I made the transition from Mississippi State baseball to Mississippi State softball. And that was, something that I really enjoyed doing. I've been in it now. Got to meet Shannon quite a few years ago. We've shared some great stories on the recruiting trail, but certainly pleased with the route that this softball journey has taken me on, and certainly blessed for the opportunity to share some experiences here with you guys tonight.
I appreciate that. All you guys obviously joining us and being a part of this. I said this earlier, but last year at the NFCA convention in Las Vegas, we ran a college coach panel and had over 200, I think it's 225 or 227 travel ball coaches join us in a huge ballroom. And the accessibility for coaches who don't go to the NFCA convention kind of threw us into why don't we do this virtual? And Coach Bratton was on it last year, and the feedback that we received from it was, this is the kind of information we need to know, right? We need to understand how coaches want to be connected with. We need to give our student athletes advice. And as we're navigating this, and you do have questions, again, feel free to throw them in the Q&A. We'll try and get to them. But big picture, like, this is a community that I was a college basketball coach for a decade, right? This is not my community, but I love it. I love all the coaches we get to talk with. I've learned so much from the relationships, and I think that's actually where I want to start. And Coach Depking, I'll start with you. You know, we're going to have coaches on this call right now who might have student athletes that want to play Division III, or that's their level where they probably should look at. We're going to have coaches on this call who maybe are not a part of a large organization, or contrast, maybe they are. But I think developing relationships is a really big thing. And so for those coaches who are new to the recruiting process, right? They've coached a team since 8U, right? And then now they're second year 14s or they're 16s. Can you give a little bit of advice just on making connections in the softball world and how important that is to recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important. I would be lying to say that a lot of the recruiting that we do doesn't get channeled through the relationships that we've already built, because there's so much more that goes into recruiting than just what you see on the softball field. And I think to get that information, you're going to have those relationships. And most importantly, you're going to have to trust whoever you're listening to. And so I think that obviously a lot of coaches' jobs is to sell their kids. And so our job is to sift through truth and get to the bottom of what parents are really like, what their character is really like, you know, how are they going to be work ethic wise? Like, what do they do socially? So I think it's really, really important. And I think it's why we as coaches lean on the connections that we do have, because we trust, you know, those connections and those coaches that we've built over time. So how you do that? I think that the face-to-face connections that we have out on the recruiting trails are really, really important. Now, I do think that there's balance to all of this. Obviously, having those interactions is very, very normal in our world, right? We go watch a softball game and we get the flyer and we're standing there and coaches come out and they talk to us. Now, I think the far end of the spectrum is coaches that come out and talk and talk and talk and continue to talk. And, you know, it's a lot for us as college coaches. But I think there's the other side that is, when we have questions, we're probably going to find you and we're probably going to ask you those questions, whatever it is that we have. And so I think it's a great opportunity to kind of start building those relationships and just having conversations. And I think at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? So as much as I might be a head coach at a Power 5 school, I'm still just a normal person, right? So I think those conversations go a long ways. And as you continue to build those conversations, I think that's how you build relationships. So I don't think I get tons of emails from coaches.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they end up in the same box that all these recruiting emails are going to. I get, you know, sometimes I get random text messages from people that I don't even know. You know, so I think that you do it in small chunks, right? You have your first conversation, you engage in the conversation, you know, we'll ask you questions that we have, and then we come back, you do the same thing. And I think that's how you build those relationships. So I think the platform that we have just in recruiting of us standing there wanting sheets and wanting to ask questions kind of opens up and lends itself to being able to have a normal conversation, which then I think leads to, you know, the bigger relationships like, hey, do you got a person? Hey, I'm looking for this, whatever it may be, that kind of takes it a step further.
Yeah, I love that. And I know, you know, part of the NCSA Alliance relationship is that at events hosted by the Alliance or by their event partners, Coach Packet is used at those events. And for you guys who don't know, who are on this call, Coach Packet's the digital recruiting booklet that has kind of taken the place of those flyers or those paper profiles or roster sheets that you may be used to handing out. And what it allows athletes to do is those athletes who have an NCSA profile, college coaches, when they're in Coach Packet, they actually see that NCSA profile on your roster and in your schedule. So while we're not trying to completely change how the softball world does everything, there is also a digital aspect to it. I think that's important to recognize. And to Coach Depking's point, you know, a lot of emails come in. There are coaches who, you know, I don't want to speak to your inbox, Coach, but I imagine all three of you have a folder with a whole lot of unopened emails that you'd love to get to, and maybe you pass on to other members of your staff, but it's really difficult when there's a flood of that information. Coach Winters, I'll throw this to you because I think you have a really unique perspective on how you've kind of gotten to the point you're at. But going back a little bit, and this might just be advice that makes sense, because I think your job at Romeoville or at Lewis may have been connected through your travel ball past. So would you just talk a little bit about that setup and how that how you did that and what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, my whole softball career has just been up to this point, some like really lucky connections and breaks. When I was working at NCSA, I was pretty bored and happened to get a random email from a person who was coaching travel for like a little 2-team league in the south suburbs, who had happened to play Big Ten softball, and someone they were coaching with had played Big East softball. And my brother, who still works at NCSA, and I were kind of like, all right, well, let's go check this out. And then we ended up with a Bat Busters organization out of Chicagoland and running a big camp where I just happened to be helping with the camp as a travel coach, and the head coach at Lewis, Becky Pearl. And I just started chatting, I think being open and all hands on deck. And I mean, it's kind of the same thing that we tell, your kids when they come to camps or when we're working camps, is like, people notice somebody that's helpful, positive, upbeat, like hardworking. And those things, were fortunate enough to kind of get me into coaching in college. And having been someone that was a travel coach trying to reach out to college coaches, I think the first thing that I had to get over was just fear. I was really nervous, like, oh my gosh, these college coaches are, I see them on TV and I can't email them. So like, that was the first thing I had to get over, was just recognizing that coaches are people and they have a job to do, and that I might have kids that fit their needs. The advice in those emails I would give is a lot of the same that we would give to your players: is do your research, know about my program, know about our kids, what degrees we have, where we finished in conference last year. I get a form email that I can tell has been sent to 35 other schools, and it's pretty easy for me to say, I don't know if these kids are going to fit what I need. As opposed to a coach reaching out, giving me their background, why that's important, and then saying, what are your needs? I've got a couple kids I think could maybe play in the Big East. What kind of feedback do you have? And so that we can develop a relationship of, hey, you know what, these kids really maybe aren't going to be able to play at our level, or these are kids that fit what we're looking for. I think doing the research, knowing about the programs you're reaching out to, and the same kind of advice that we would give your kids before taking some of those steps.
So I really appreciate that, Mal. I think, as travel coaches and especially coaches who haven't gone through this before, right? Like, there is a learning curve to creating those relationships and knowing when it's okay and what to say. We talked about this, Tyler, at the convention last year and on the panel last year. And I think it's an important thing to bring up for coaches who haven't gone through this before, right? Oftentimes they'll come up to you at an event, they'll see you and they'll say, I've got the perfect player for you. Right. And I've got someone who you have to watch. And I recognize, I think we all recognize the intention there, right, is great. But what I've always wanted to say in that case was, well, how do you know what I want? Or how do you know what I need? Can you just talk about that process? Because I think there's an introduction to recruiting that probably needs to be made on a larger scale, but how do you go about finding out from a coach, what are they looking for and what class are they currently recruiting? Do you actually have a player that might fit what they're looking for? What would that look like for you, Tyler?
Yeah, I think that is a good question. And every now and then we'll get hit up with something random, somebody that we maybe not have met before, that'll come and introduce themselves and start out with an opening line very similar to what you say. And it kind of happened, 2 weeks ago. I was out in California at the Don Battles and the Huntington Beach, the pre-Thanksgiving Surf City tournament. I'm watching the game, and I'm watching two teams ahead of me. And I got somebody that I didn't know comes up to me and gives me his flyer of a team that hasn't played yet, but they're going to be playing behind me. And he proceeds to go through and give me the lowdown on like 7 players. And I'm thinking to myself, I've got 3 that I already are on my sheet. on my schedule of this game that I'm trying to watch. I literally just walked up to it in the second inning, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, where's 43? Okay, she's playing shortstop. Meanwhile, I get kind of hit up with somebody telling me about something going on the other field, and I think I'm not the only one that's been there. I'm sure Shannon and Mal have been in that same spot too. You know, it's there's a fine line between being too proactive and then kind of letting things happen a little bit more organically. And I think at the big events, particularly the 6 weekends in the fall, you know, we have a pretty good idea of what we're at least going to watch, right? And then we kind of are able to add players, subtract players, kind of based off where we're headed, instead of just getting kind of caught off guard with a game that hasn't even happened yet on a field that we're not even looking at. So, you know, that's kind of a little bit of a turnoff to have that kind of scenario happen. But there are relationships, like Shannon alluded to earlier. You know, we've been doing this 10, 11 years. You start kind of developing relationships with coaches that have sent some players to your program that have excelled in your program, right? And you know that they have a level of toughness that's gonna come through when the going gets tough, right? And you know that they have a level of coachability because they've been through kind of that program. So when they speak to you on, I've got the right player for your program, they have a little more equity built into that because you've had a player that's kind of come through and they've had that relationship back and forth between us and them at the college level, and also them reporting back to that coach of that travel ball organization. Why? Because they're going to have 6 more players over the next 6 years that might follow her footsteps and come on to start Vegas too. But you're right. I mean, some of that, it kind of happens a little organically. Sometimes it's doesn't really happen where there's an immediately, hey, I just met you, but I've got 7 kids for you. What do you really? I don't know. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't. That's what we get paid, the quote unquote big bucks, if you will, to try to, you know, make those decisions. And the one that we talked about at the convention last year, it kind of gets into the whole thing. I think you're kind of going down this road is the stats that matter, right? And you got this guy that comes up to you and says, Coach Bratton, man, I know you guys like to run bases. I've got the kid for you. I've got a super fast kid. That's a 2-7 home to first, blah, 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 right? And I said, okay, well, 2-7 home to first. How many stolen bases did she have last year? Well, she had 4. You're like, okay, so you're selling me at the college level a kid with a lot of stolen base, or a kid that's super fast, right? And I ask you how many stolen bases the kid has, and you say 4. And I say, well, how many games did she play in? Well, she played in 32. Okay. So you got 4 stolen bases in 32 games. That's a stat that's not really going to carry a lot of weight, right? And the same can be said for power. I got a kid with super power going to hit big time home runs in college. All right, well, how many home runs does she have? Well, she's got 4 so far this year in 21 games. Well, that's not really a lot of home runs, right? But now if they were to come back and say, hey, in 21 games, you know, she's got 16 home runs. You're like, okay, that's pretty good. Or a pitcher that's got plus stuff. You're like, okay, well, what are the strikeouts to innings ratio, strikeout to walk ratio? All right, 66 innings, you got 124 strikeouts. Okay, that's 2-to-1. You're getting 2 strikeouts per inning. That's a pretty good ratio. Those are kind of numbers that are going to carry big time validity with us. We're like, that's going to translate. If you're striking out 2+ an inning in high school, odds are you've got some stuff that gets some swing and miss. And now we got something we can work with that. Sure. But if you got a kid that strikes out, you know, 1 an inning, and walks 2 and then strikes out 1, well, that's, if you're not striking out but, you know, 6-7 batters in a high school game, you're probably not going to strike out a lot at the college game. And there may not be some deception there that's causing hitters to swing and miss on. So those are some stats that do matter. The ERA, again, what Aunt Sally is keeping the scorebook, same with the batting average. Well, I got a kid that hit 585 last year. Well, did you hit 585? Or did you hit 4 hoppers to the shortstop that the shortstop bobbled and you beat out and they gave you a hit on it? That's not really a 585 true average, right? Depends on the subjectivity of who's keeping the scorebook. So those are kind of some things that kind of, you know, we look at, we kind of weigh, you know, we take it with a grain of salt to a degree. But things that do matter is what we see with our eyes, you know, what we see at our camps. You get a chance to come to a camp on a college campus. Now we can talk to you. Now we can kind of engage a little bit, see what the character's like, see, you know, how can you respond to maybe our style of play, our style of coaching, that sort of thing. And are you a visual learner or you audible learner? We kind of learn those things about you a little bit too. And I think those are some steps that, especially when you're kind of early on in the process, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, you start looking into, can I get to a camp? Can I come see a campus at a camp? I know COVID really limited us a couple years ago.
And we will,
But
we will definitely get in, we'll definitely get into camps here because I think that's a question we always get. And so we'll do a dive into that. I think, Tyler, you and I, I think I asked you the same question last year and I think you answered even better this time. So I appreciate that. I think we're off to a great start here. I want to keep it rolling. I think there's something important to think about when we're talking about the recruiting process and for travel ball coaches in general to understand this, right? Like, there's 3 levels. There's identification and to go to one of the Alliance's mission, which is whether you're a part of a big organization with 80 teams or you're a one team, group from Illinois or Iowa or Oklahoma or wherever, you're getting the same experience, right? You're getting the same opportunity. One of those opportunities is through identification and learning how to go through this process through things like this. But there's really 3 levels to recruiting. You have an identification piece, you have an evaluation piece, and then you have the actual recruiting and diving into the process and talking with the coaches. Coach Debking, I'll throw this to you. When identifying student athletes, and it could be an athlete you haven't seen before, or maybe someone you've heard about from a coach, what are the first things you're looking at? How do you go through that process of getting from identification to potential evaluation?
I mean, I think this is like the biggest question we always get because everybody wants, the golden ticket of like, how do I get recruited?
Mhm.
And I think like the reality of it is sometimes it's just luck. And I think that a lot of recruiting is we have our set schedule, like Tyler has said, we go to these fields, we plan it all out. And then you happen to see somebody on the team who's really good. And guess what? They get added to our list. They weren't there. We had nobody knew who they were, but damn, the kid can play. Right. And I think that happens more often than not. And so at the end of the day, some of this is just luck that we stumble upon a field watching somebody else and Sally's really, really good. And Sally gets on our list. Now that doesn't help coaches, right? Figure that piece out. But what I will say is that camps can go one of 2 ways. And I understand that there are a lot of money grabs and there's a lot of money in this from a lot of different people. But if you really want to go to Mississippi State, go to a camp. And if the kid actually can play there, I promise you, Tyler will be able to figure out whether you can play softball or you can't. It's not hard to do. Like when you get into these camp settings, you have a handful of kids that are just hands down better than the rest of the group. And so I think that these camps, if you do it in a way where you actually come up with a list of schools, and if it makes sense financially for the parents that you think you can play at, and we're realistic with these kids and don't send a kid to Mississippi State who should not be playing Division I in the first place, right? I think that that's like a great opportunity for travel ball coaches to just be real and transparent with these kids on the level that they think they can play at. Now, if a travel ball coach says like, I truly think they can play at Mississippi State, I think camps are a great opportunity. I promise you, in a camp setting, you are not going to fall through the cracks if you could actually play at that level. And so if you really want to get in front of Tyler and you're not on Tyler's list, go to the camp. And then if you leave that camp and you're still not on Tyler's list, you should probably make another list, right? And I'm not saying that Tyler will never go back to you, right? I think there's some show really well in camps and some don't, and right? Like I think there's good days, bad days. We all know that. But I think that the recruiting process, while yes, we build our list and yes, some of it's luck, I think like the initial, you want to get in front of a college coach, the only way you're going to guarantee you get in front of that coach is by going on their campus and getting into a camp, and you hands down will get in front of them. Now, what happens after that, right? Like that is the tricky part, but I think there's no guarantees on whether you could want to go to Mississippi State all you want, but there is no guarantees Mississippi State's going to happen to come to your field and watch you play with all of the fields and everything that is going on in travel ball. It's just a crazy world. We would love to. We like don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but at the end of the day, there's only 3 coaches that can go out right now, and there's like 50,000 different fields that we have to try to cover. Anywhere from Huntington Beach to Chino Hills to Parrot, like it's crazy and it's just unrealistic. So I think the best piece of advice is be realistic, right? Be realistic with the kids, make your lists and send them to the camps, because that'll give you hands down opportunity for us to put eyes on those kids for that first initial, yep, you got to see what that kid's all about.
And I think we're probably going into a new world where camps exist maybe in a little different way than they did pre-pandemic. And obviously some things got changed during the pandemic. They're opening back up with more camps. You guys offer more opportunity. I think for those on this call, one of the really good things that you could do if you're just learning this process and you're just going through this for the first time is go with your player to the camp, and watch and listen. Now be in the background, like let the kid have the opportunity and enjoy themselves. But you've got to learn too as a coach, right? You've got to go through this process a little bit yourself. You've got to ask questions to the right people. And when you get a chance, ask the right questions and be there in the moment to understand what it is you need to know to be able to support your kids. Because at the end of the day, the only reason we're doing this webinar is to support you so that you can support your athletes. Like that's why these coaches have joined us tonight. That's why this is so important to the NCSA Alliance partnership, is because education is a huge piece. And there are, to Coach's point, there are great camps for your kids to go to, and there might be some of those money grab type camps as well. But your kids are going to learn a lot. They're going to get the experience of competing. And if it's a school that they're interested in, there's nothing wrong with trying, right? Coach Winters, I'll go a little bit different with you here because of your experience at the Division II level as well. Most coaches go into an event, right, where they have a list of all the kids that they need to watch and the fields that they're playing on, the times that they're playing on, the distance between field A and field B, if they're going to be able to make that game, right? I mean, this is weeks of preparation before events sometimes, and oftentimes it's a crash course 24 hours before because of changes and things like that. But can you talk a little bit about how you actually put together your list? Because I think given your experience as a travel ball coach, given your experience at NCSA and the way the NCSA system works, all those things, can you just talk about getting an email from a student athlete or an athlete coming to one of your camps, and then the process that you go through to actually watch them in person, and maybe even like, what are some of the things you're watching in person? Because I think a misconception, and it was this way in basketball, like you strike out, you're off the list, right? Or you miss a shot, you're off the list. Like that's not reality, right? You're watching more than that. Can you just talk about that whole kind of process that I just threw?
Yeah, absolutely.
10 questions in one at you.
No, I'll try to go start to finish. And if I miss anything, we'll circle back to it. So I am a little bit, probably unique in that, at my Division II, as you know, anyone who's coached at another level, there's not a GA to go through all the emails. Like I was the recruiting inbox. And I have like a little bit of a FOMO, like I have to read everything. So I try to keep a pretty tidy inbox and get through everything. So I will hammer out emails as much as I can. And I have like a color coding system, and it's green is a good prospect. Red is not interested. Orange is need to see more. And blue is no video. And I go through and color code all emails and then start divvying those out into folders for an event that I'm going to. And so then if that's in August, I'll start putting out, we're going to be at this on October 15th. We're going to be at this on, or these are the events that are going on October 15th. These are the events October 22nd. These are the events October 30th. So that I've started to get an idea what kids are going to be at what events, and are those kids good prospects for us. So if one of those events is a bunch of, reds and oranges, like that's maybe not where we're going to spend our time if we've got all these other kids over at one that's one of our green events. Or if there's kids that we like at both, then we can split. So that's kind of what my pre-process is like. And then we'll divide and conquer our staff that way. When I'm at an event, it kind of depends, if it's the first game of the morning, I'm probably late because I'm always late to everything. So I get there at 8:10 and they've started at 7:50 for some reason. So, if you can, don't let your umpires start those 8 a.m. games early. It's annoying. Again, a lot of times I already know whether or not this is a kid that has the ability to play at our level. Just like a little sidebar, this is a hot take maybe, I kind of miss skills videos. Just being able to watch like a quick 2.5 minute of just skills as opposed to 10 different individual clips of sack bunts, and then a play where you maybe catch a ball in right field, but I'm not really sure because it's so far away. And so like I kind of miss some traditional skills videos, or if you have good highlights that you can put all in one, that's a lot more efficient for me to look at than going through like 15 different YouTube clips. So again, I'm already going to know whether or not this is somebody that could maybe play at our level, whatever level that is, at D2, at D1, at D3, I already know. And then I'm looking for, how do you compete? How are you composed? And this is like, cliche stuff that I'm sure everybody hears all the time,
No,
but
but
like,
no,
are you
that's
mean
really
to
important.
mom in the parking lot after
Yeah.
you strike out? Like if you yell at your dad that you need a hot dog from the snack bar, like I am mom and dad on the road with these kids, and I'm not having somebody yell at me that they need a hot dog from the snack bar. Like, so how do you talk to your parents? Do you look your coach in the eye and have good eye contact? Are you picking somebody up going to, the outfield? Like, so those are the on-field things. And obviously, does the talent actually match what I saw in the video? If it doesn't, that's pretty easy. And then that's just, you're not the right fit for our level.
Sure.
After the fact, depending on what that kid's grad year is and what the communication rules are, that's going to be different at D2. June 15th, after your sophomore year at D2, coaches can talk to you. So I had some kids when I was at Lewis that it was prior to June 15th. I reached right out to their travel coach. I said, hey, we like these kids. Can they come to camp? And coach came with them to camp and introduced herself. And that right there was an easy way to make a connection. She had kids that we liked. She reached out, or, she followed up with me about those kids and said they were coming to camp. And that's an easy way to just start to build a relationship with somebody.
Yeah. I
And
want
so
to hit on that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I think that's a really important piece, and hopefully everyone appreciates this. The idea of like student athletes won't be recruited until a certain age or a certain whether it's June 15th or it's September 1st or whatever it is for whatever level, right? Like there's a difference between being recruited and then like being recruited, right? Like the identification piece can happen, at 14U, it can happen early for these kids. And there's nothing that says that you can't send an email as a coach or even as a student athlete to a coach. Now, what you get back, right, from a coach, if you're a student athlete, you're not going to get something back, or you get, thanks, we received this, we can't talk to you kind of stuff. But big picture, I think what you're talking about with skills videos, which can be on an NCSA profile, which you guys have mentioned stats, you mentioned measurables. The one thing that we haven't hit is we haven't hit the academic side, which I do want to make sure we touch on. Mal and Tyler, I'm going to get to something else with you next, but Mal, just from like an academic standpoint, knowing that you at different levels, different schools, you might need a certain level of student athlete. Coach Depking, you know this better than anyone, being at Dartmouth and Amherst, two of the best academic institutions in the country. Mal, like, what do you want to see from an academic side? Because I do think that's important, especially in initial communication.
Yeah, and that's part of that initial process is like, I hate having to track down all kinds of information that you don't provide in that initial email. Like it's easiest if it's all in one place. And part of that good prospect is if it's a GPA that doesn't fit what we need at Butler, like that's not going to be someone that necessarily is a good prospect. So having everything easily accessible and not in 5 different emails or just, all over the place makes my life a lot easier. Softball is a sport that comes with a necessity of good academics at a lot of levels because of the scholarship money that comes along with that. So we're looking for pretty high GPAs. We're looking for serious, student athletes, and knowing that kids that don't take their academics seriously in high school will potentially struggle at our level.
Yeah.
So like our 3 seniors right now are 2 PAs and a PT, so like those are the kind of kids that we're looking for. And so that doesn't mean that if school is hard for you, you can't be a college softball player. I think that's most important, is that there's a level for you. It's just really understanding that either you're going to have to work really hard at the next level, maybe start at a junior college, which is a great option, or just, find that right fit for where you're at.
I appreciate that. And just back to the Alliance partnership with NCSA, right? The idea behind the player profile is that all these things can be in one piece. You can use that profile, send that to college coaches so they don't have to go searching for that. You can take a picture of your transcript that can go on your profile. Your video, right, can go on your profile. Stats, measurables, all that stuff can be in your profile with your contact information, the contact information for your coaches. That's an important piece to it. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like I'm Tyler, I think we're about the same age. When I went through the recruiting process as a college basketball coach, I had a college basketball player. I had a VHS tapes. I had like 200 of them. I mowed lawns for an entire summer to pay for postage. And then I had like a Word document that I printed out and I sent it out to all these schools, and about 7 got back to me because I was an average basketball player, and I ended up going to 1, but that's how hard I had to work on it. Tyler, I'm going to throw this at you because we get questions about this all the time. There's a couple in our Q&A already. Video, right? Mal hit on the skills video idea. There obviously has been a shift, right? During the pandemic, Athletes Go Live, another Alliance partner, was a huge piece to that, and is still a really big piece to the video process. But I do want to hit on like the skills highlight, updating those, that kind of thing. Give me like your, what do you want to see? And obviously it's dependent, it's dependent on positions and all that stuff, but like, what is going to attract you if you do get a video from somebody? What's going to attract you to want to find out more about that student athlete? And how do you guys use video as a staff? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think, tools, we talk in terms of tools, and we're trying to find as many 5-tool players as we can. We're recruiting a lot of shortstops, just, being transparent, a lot of if you can play shortstop, odds are you could probably play second base or third base. There's just some avenues where you're pretty athletic if you can defend shortstop. So you're probably gonna be pretty athletic, even if you're a college left fielder, for instance. So those kinds of things matter. I will kind of get into the video, and this is where Twitter, and more so Twitter than Instagram, has really kind of
another Q&A question, just so you guys know, another Q&A question, social media, Instagram, that kind of stuff.
Yep, absolutely. And I think when you can get tagged in a tweet, it gives you a quick 30-second, like, okay, I can go see what this kid did in 30 seconds, and it was against live competition. I think going against live matters, unless you're doing something that is just a legit skill, like opening up with, my name is Tyler Bratton, and I have a 76-mile-an-hour overhand throw. Well, if you're throwing 76 miles an hour in softball, that's pretty daggum good. I'm going to be intrigued by that, right? So you're like, okay, now I want to see it, so let's see it. So if it's a real skill that's like A++, yeah, certainly want to lead with that. I think a 74-mile-an-hour overhand is A++, just like kind of getting into the academic piece. If you've got a 32 on the ACT, by all means, open up with your header on your email, so-and-so 32 ACT, because that says to us, okay, this kid's pretty serious about their academics. And if you're serious about your academics, well, usually that's going to translate into other avenues of your life. And not only that, we have a pretty good academic package. So that 32 ACT is going to really get money back. And, we're not football. We don't have 85 fulls, right? We've got 12 and we've got 24 players. So we're trying to use that Tetris puzzle. I'm kind of dating myself saying the word Tetris. No, none of these kids know what Tetris is. But that was a great game when I was a kid. I loved playing some Tetris. You try to get to like level 24 in Tetris, it'd be pretty good. But if you have the high academic scores, the high GPAs, those kind of things, it really kind of helps us get some money back. But we can go help get another pitcher or go get another catcher or whatever the case may be. So those kinds of things certainly go a long way. But the skills and the Twitter videos, I think those are huge. And having folks that tag you in tweets, we may not like it because we don't want to let Shannon know that I like it, right? So some of
I
those
check all your likes. Quit playing.
just saying. So
That's how I find your recruits.
There's kind of that cat and mouse game a little bit where coach didn't like it, so they're really interested. Well, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. That's kind of part of the game, I guess, if you will. But the thing about the Twitter is it's instant notification. Okay, this kid, maybe she's been to camp. Now she just tags in a tweet. What's this tweet about? Oh man, she hit a bomb against the Beverly Bandits and against that kid going to Syracuse, like, all right, well, that's pretty good stuff. And it was immediate information without me having to go look for it.
Yeah.
So I think those are some things in 30-second bursts, minute bursts. You know, you don't want to get too long-winded with some of this stuff, but put your best foot forward. And I think that's where the Twitter thing really helps. And
Can
like
I, can I
like
ask,
your
I want to
question.
ask you guys one thing, or ask you one thing, Tyler, and I think this is important because you'll see this on social media. You'll see Syracuse University softball, Mississippi State University softball, Butler University softball as these student athletes or these coaches tagging you guys from your account, but it's not you. It's the program's account. And I do want to make this kind of clear here is like oftentimes those accounts are run by sports information directors, GAs, that kind of thing. So if you are trying to connect with the staff, and I'm more in favor of like, hey, do it smart. Don't tag every Big East school in the same tweet. Don't, like I like to be a little bit more specific about who you're tweeting at and who you're trying to get a hold of. But make sure you're doing it, if you are going to do it, to the actual coaching staff, to the coaches' Twitter accounts, because there's a huge difference between you trying to get to the Mississippi State, Instagram page as opposed to Tyler Bratton's Twitter, right? And so I did want to make that clear. If you're going to go that route of social media, be smart about it. And if you're going to instruct your athletes to go that route, be smart about it.
Yeah, agree.
Anything else there, Tyler? Anything else with video that you think would be really beneficial here on your end?
Well, like I said, I think keep it short, keep it sweet. You don't have to get really long-winded with some of this stuff. But if you have, again, like a plus tool, show it. If you got big bat speed, well, let's see you launch one. If you can really run, well, let's see an inside the park home run where you just absolutely turn on the jets. If it's something that makes you stand out, just like a football clip or a basketball clip in your day, you're not going to put a basketball video of you hitting a bunch of bricks, right? But you're gonna hit some where you cross this guy over, you break his legs, and you dunk on him, right? That's just how you do it, right, John? But
yeah, I wish I would have had more than 7 opportunities to play in college. I wish.
I want to jump in really quick. And first thing, I am going to launch a poll here in a sec. So if you guys, because we'd like to know a little bit more, but Tyler, especially being a baseball background, what are legit numbers in softball? So when you talk about overhand velo, exit velo, pitcher's velocity, like I don't know if we've really established that in softball that's clear. So I'd be really curious from you guys, what are those? You hear home to first time quite a bit, but what are some of those numbers that really catch your eye?
Yeah, the home to first thing is intriguing, and it's kind of a pet peeve a little bit when you hear somebody say, I got a right-handed hitter running a 2.7 home to first. Well, no, you don't. Usain Bolt's not running a 2.7 from the right side on a swing, right? So we're trying to go when the ball hit the bat and then when we're touching first base, we're trying to go off those numbers there. So if you're a righty power hitter and you are running a 3.5, 3.55, that's pretty good from the right side, especially if you're not trying to like cheat and get out of the box too soon. Lefty slapper, yeah, if you're 2.8, 2.82, 2.78, something like that, that's a pretty good plus tool. That's going to correlate. That's going to get, if the ball bounces twice and you're a 2.8 runner, they're not throwing you out. No matter if you're playing in the desert at Arizona or if you're playing in the humidity in South Florida, that's going to play no matter where you are. D1, D2, D3, it doesn't matter. I mean, those are numbers that are going to go. Same with velocity from a pitching staff. You can throw 63, but if you have high spin rate, you're starting to see more of these Stalker 2 guns out. For those that are curious about, used to you had like the pocket radar that kind of looked like a phone, and it just got the velo. Well, now these Stalkers are getting the spin rate too. So if you're getting a 63 or 64 mile an hour kid, that's a 2025. And by the way, they're already running at 15 to 1600 RPMs. You're like, okay, that's a pretty good spin. It's a pretty good snap to go along with not bad velocity either. And you start getting in the college game, you might can turn that 63 into 67, or you might get the 68. And then if you're still increasing that spin rate, you got somebody going 68 and they're close to 2000 spin. I mean, that's a pretty dynamic combo right there. So those are some numbers that are going to play out. Exit velocity is huge. If you've got somebody that has exit velos, 78, 79 on Rapsodo, that's pretty darn good. Hit tracks, TrackMan, whatever your technology piece is. I mean, that's pretty good. It's more about hard hit ball percentage more than, let's say, launch angle. You hear folks talk about launch angle and some other things too. if ballers are coming off your bat hard all the time, you're going to have a chance to be pretty good in college. And we, you know, you getting back into the Athletes Go Live stuff. For a whole summer, we did nothing but watch AGL. We couldn't go recruit. And we put our 2022 class together in large part because of what we got to see on video. So shout out to those that use AGL and send us all those links. We signed a pitcher from the Iowa Premier, and I could talk about it because she's on campus now. If it was a committed kid, I couldn't talk about it. But she had a 43% whiff rate. And we got that because we could actually watch in front of a computer like myself right now with the pen in hand and keep our stat sheet. And every ball, strike, swing and miss rate, hard hit contact rate, we had all of it. And when you go to a tournament and you're watching a game, it's harder to get that stuff live because you're distracted by coaches talking to you and you're talking to other people and you're watching this, that, and the other. But when you're watching AGL, you can get bona fide swing and miss percentages. You can get bona fide hard hit ball percentages from hitters. You can get your stopwatch out. You can get some pretty, you know, close to spot on home to first times. You may not be able to see the right fielder, right? But the pitcher catcher relationship, you can see that pretty good on AGL. The batted ball relationship, you can see that pretty good on AGL, especially if the camera's high enough where you don't get blocked off by the umpire. And that's another talk for another day. But there are some numbers that do pay off. And I think the AGL stuff, even if to Shannon's point earlier, like if we're at 50,000 fields, we can't be at all of them. We can only be at 3 at any given time. And the relationships with coaches comes a long way. And you have that testimonial with a certain staff before or coaches before that you kind of met along the way, though, you know, those are going to carry some weight. But if not, maybe you didn't get to see a game at Harvard Park, but you wanted to see a kid play. Well, what can you do? We can go back to the office on Monday morning and say, hey, I wanted to see how that kid pitched. Now I can go back in and watch her AGL. And then I can take, okay, she threw 48 pitches, 32 were strikes, 1 walk, 6 Ks, had 1 hard hit ball against her. All right. We know that that's going to play a little, even though we didn't get the velocities and or the spin rates on that, the stats still kind of tell a little bit of a story there.
That's great. I appreciate that. Jamie, were you able to launch that poll? There we go. Cool. So Jamie just launched this poll. Please answer and give us a little bit more info just on you and your experience. Coach Debking, I'm going to throw this to you because I think you have a really unique perspective, having been at some really high academic institutions and different levels, right? Can you talk just a little bit? We get a lot of questions about what is the difference in levels, right? Besides the scholarship piece, and I would, Mal, I think I'll come to you about scholarships maybe next, but Coach, like, can you just talk about the difference? You know, what are you looking at? What do you see with your eyes? Because I know it's a big eyes thing. I'm sure stats and measurables play into that. Can you just talk about the difference in levels that you've seen having coached at those different spots.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a great question because I think this is the educational piece that a lot of travel ball coaches need, is just to understand the different levels. You know, I think that one of the things that when I was at those schools, I don't think whether it's Division III, whether it's the Ivy League, I always got I have the perfect player for you. And it was always the worst kid who was smart. Like, I don't want terrible softball players who are really smart. And I got that all the time. And it pissed me off every single time I got it. And I always started it with, I don't want your nerd on the team. I want a ball player, right? And we can find both if you understand how this works. Because at Amherst, the difference there was Division III did not have a fall. And so there was absolutely no practicing in the fall. So they focused on academics. They went and studied abroad. They did the whole academic thing. So there was absolutely no softball going on in the fall. They did not have their first softball practice until February 14th, was the very first time they could be together as a softball team. And we started practicing. So obviously the volume of softball is very, very small compared to what it is at the level we are at. So you go to a place like Amherst because you're going to get an amazing degree. You're going to get the opportunity to compete at the collegiate level, but you're going to have a lot of balance in that. I think that another educational piece is that obviously Amherst College is super, super high academics. You're going to need certain test scores in order to get there. all academic institutions have a certain amount of slots that they're allowed to give. So when I was at Amherst, I think we had 3 slots. Here's one of the things that I think is really helpful for travel ball coaches. At Amherst, they had what was called a diversity slot. So if you found kids that were came from African Americans, Hispanics, they actually got free slots. So they did not cost the softball coach a slot. You got extra slots to be able to utilize on top of the 3 that you already had. So it was a great opportunity to be able to build out a class and get more than the allotment that they were giving you at a high academic to be able to utilize that piece. And so that was one that you can't build a softball class out of 3 kids. I mean, think about that. For 4 years, you get 3 kids. Like, how do you have a team? Well, you don't, right? You're not getting tons of walk-ons who could actually play at that level. So it was definitely kind of a loophole that we utilized quite a bit. At Dartmouth, it was, you got more softball, not as much as we get. So there was 12 practices in the fall. One fall that was completely off. Junior year, they would go study abroad. They were off campus. They utilized it in a way to obviously build their resumes and do things that would help their careers. Again, we didn't start softball team practice until February. So again, it was, you got the taste of playing Division I softball, but there was still a lot of emphasis on being a student. Again, a school that all the Ivy Leagues have a certain amount of slots that they could utilize. That was 6. But here comes another just piece that's really important for coaches to understand. At least at Dartmouth, it was an average. And so it wasn't necessarily always that I needed the 33 ACT. We actually made a field day out of finding people exactly like Jamie, who are super, super smart, right? Who could play at a very, very high level, but probably never knew that she could also play in the Ivy League if that was something that she wanted to do. So we made a field day out of finding kids who had ACT scores in the upper 20s. And then what we would do is we would balance that upper 20 kid out, who had never thought of going to the Ivy League because she just wanted to play Division I softball. You kind of tell her what you're going to do after college with that degree. You know, it makes people think a little bit different. You balance that upper 20s with the 34, 35, and you end up with the average that the coach needs. So it's not necessarily that, again, I don't need your 35 who has a very hard time swinging a softball bat, right? Like, give me some ball players, like, let me do that assessment, and then I'll give you an answer of, yeah, she could play here, because I don't think a lot of coaches have watched Division III softball. So for you to tell me this kid could play for you, I mean, have you watched them play? Have you ever watched Dartmouth play softball? Like, the answer is usually no. So it's usually doesn't align. So I think the more, again, that you know, the better off you will be. I think the other piece that's super, super important at high academic institutions are financial aid packages. They're really, really expensive, but most people don't know that if you have a family combined income under $100,000, you're going to go to almost all Ivy Leagues for free. And that's incredible, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to work towards kids not having student debt. Student debt is the devil, right? These loans are crazy. They're so hard to pay off. So who cares where this money comes from? So if you have financial aid kids who are really, really smart, great way to go, because you're going to go for free. Same thing with Amherst, huge financial aid packages. Neither one offer athletic scholarships, but there's still a way, right? If you understand the way. So I think that the more that you understand how those function, I think it makes the recruiting process a little bit easier. We start pushing kids that way, and then let them make the decision. So it's for some people. Yeah, I would love to go study abroad. Yeah, I want to play softball, but I don't want to play as much as like we're playing right now. So I think Division III was not a lot at all. Obviously, Dartmouth was a lot more than Division III, but not nearly as much as we are. You still get to study abroad. You still get to do some cool stuff, but it's balance. There's a lot more balance at those places.
Thank you. I think your perspective, having been at those different places, is really unique. I'd also encourage every coach on here, go to a local Division III game, go to a local Division II game, go to a local Division I game, go to a local junior college game, watch the play, compare your kids, see where, you know, they think they might fit, and really do your homework, because there are some tremendous student athletes and amazing programs at levels that aren't Division I. I know I got 3 Division I coaches on here, but I was a Division III coach. I was a Division II coach. I've coached teams that could be some of the Division I teams that I coached in basketball. And while it's not all apples and, you know, equal, right? I'd encourage you to go out and watch, because I think that's important.
I think the other plug with it, just to throw this out there, is being as respectful to those guys as you are to the Division I coaches, because the
Yeah.
difference between being a head coach at Syracuse as it was at Amherst is night and day. Like there are some people that won't even walk up to you. They'll V-line straight for, you know, the Power 5 coach. And it's honestly, it's crazy, because at the end of the day, you don't know who knows who. And, you know, I just think we as a community are better than that. So I think that we should show the same respect no matter what level we're coaching at.
Shannon, I
love
think that's
that.
a great, sorry, John, I
Go-
want to
no,
jump
go
in
ahead.
really quick for any three of you, feel free, because you've been at the different levels, but in our poll, it does look like a large majority think their kids might go D2 or D3 level. So I think a lot of coaches ask, at least from the Alliance side, of what tournament should I be playing in? So a lot of times when we think of the big recruiting tournaments and showcases, it's some of the big ones. But when you were at a D2 school or D3 school, or maybe a mid-major, what tournaments are you recruiting at, or what are some places that these teams should play at?
And Mal, this could be a great question for you. I think maybe if we just, because you coached at that level, you had a lot of, and your sister played junior college, and you know, like you understand that. I think you'll give a great answer here if you want to take that.
Thanks. I think the biggest part of that at the different levels is just understanding what the resources of those different schools are going to be able to do recruiting wise. So when I was at Lewis University, we were really fortunate that, I think 7 tournaments in the fall and 6 in the summer were either in Orland Park, Illinois, St. Charles, Illinois, or Crown Point, Indiana. So those were all within, you know, a 50-mile radius of us. So we could be out all the time, but the likelihood that we were going to get down to Texas or out to Colorado, unless I was going with the travel team I was also coaching with, or out to California, were really small. So if we had out-of-state kids that wanted to be recruited by us there in Romeoville, they really had to come to us a lot of times. Whereas now at a Division I, it's a little bit different. We have some more resources, so I can get down to Birmingham or Scenic City. We still stay, you know, relatively within our region. But I think that's the biggest thing, is knowing what the resources are going to be at those different levels. And if it's a smaller school that might not have the you know, cash to get out all over the country every weekend, going to their camps is going to be huge for you.
And encouraging your athletes to reach out to those coaches who maybe won't be for sure at the tournament you're playing in, but you think it might be a good fit, right? Think about that as you're instructing your athletes on reaching out to coaches before an event or after an event that you play in. You know, getting them a profile, getting them the video, getting them the information so that they can make some decisions on where you fit in their on their recruiting list, because they might not see you play live, or maybe they'll only see you once play live, or maybe it won't be till later on in your career as a travel ball or high school player. I do want to make one real quick PSA on this. Is softball? It's an equivalency sport, and so there is I think it's an important piece for you guys to understand. You know, there's head count sports, and then there's equivalency sports, and head count sports are where every player has a full scholarship, right? It is a full scholarship. An equivalency sport is where coaches can break up those scholarships to provide, you know, that scholarship resource to players at different levels of maybe percentage, right? And that's where I think all 3 of our panelists have made this mention, is that's why academics are so important in this world. That's why test scores are so important in this world. That's why your extracurriculars can be so important in this world, right? Is to get scholarship money that doesn't go against the softball program. And Tyler, I think it was you who mentioned the 12 scholarships for Mississippi State softball. And if you don't mind, and think we could talk really big picture here, but how do you guys look at that scholarship piece? And one question that we've gotten is about like commitments. You know, are student athletes committing to a certain scholarship package that you've offered them? Do you guys do that later on down the road? Like, how does that work? If you guys don't mind hitting on that a little bit, or Tyler, if you don't mind hitting on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're lucky in the terms of how our out-of-state scholarships go into play at Mississippi State. There's some, with a lot of ACTs and SATs weren't allowed to be taken as much with the COVID pandemic. So there has been a year, and I believe it's going to be the same kind of moving forward, where the GPAs are going to carry major weight, when used to the test score carried a lot of weight in terms of what kind of academic package you could get. So now a 4.0 high school GPA, well, that gets you a pretty good amount of your out-of-state tuition waived already. And used to, you had to have a 4.0 and a 26 on the ACT, and a 24 on the ACT. Those kinds of things. So yeah, the quote unquote one in terms of scholarship, there's not any of our players that are on a one, and that's what you're getting into with the head counts. And a football guy is getting the full in-state, out-of-state room, board, and books, whether he stays on campus or not. He's getting all that, and if he's staying off campus, he's getting the form of a check to pay his rent and his utilities. And on top of that, he's getting the COA, which is another, and that's weighted by every school, and that's just your cost of attendance, how easy it is to travel to and from that institution. And then you have the Alston court case, which is something that kind of became more new in the last 8 to 16 months, probably. And there's another pot of cash with that too. So that kind of hits a lot of your Power Fives in terms of the Alston court case, and every school kind of probably calls theirs a little bit different. But in some form of packaging all of those things together, we try to get into a offer that is minimal to the pocketbook for the student athlete. And every situation is different, and every kid's different, and every background's different, and this is all very fluid. But we're trying to get it to a point where you can go to school and it does not cost you hardly anything to pay anything back. And Shannon hit on that earlier. At the end of the day, what's your bottom line? How much am I gonna have to owe back over the course of the next 10 to 20 years in terms of student loan debt? Well, if we can minimize that gap, now you got a pretty good opportunity to get a college degree, play college softball, meet some friends that you'll have for the rest of your life, have some opportunities that you'll never forget. Oh, and by the way, you don't owe anything when you get done. So if we can find some kind of a package to where we can get to that point, I think that's something that certainly goes a long way with the players we're recruiting.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And just for context for everybody, and I'm not positive that this number is up to date, but I think it's pretty close. Like, talking about football has 85 scholarships that they give out, and Tyler mentioned 12 for his softball team. I worked at Division II school, Wayne State College in Wayne, Nebraska, and at Wayne State, if you had a 3.25 or higher, you automatically got 0.25 of a scholarship. And that was for student athletes and for the general student population. So we recruited higher level students because that was an automatic quarter of a scholarship that then didn't have to go against our scholarship as a Division II program that was fully funded, but that doesn't mean that everyone has full scholarships. And I think that's a difference. It's also a great reason why junior college, right? Junior colleges have different scholarship levels. You can get associates, you can transfer to a Division I program a lot easier today than you could back, a decade ago, right? And there's some amazing junior college coaches across the country doing terrific jobs with their programs. NAIA, another scholarship opportunity for student athletes at some schools. Division II, obviously, another piece that's going to have less scholarships than Division I programs generally do, and is going to break them up, but is another scholarship opportunity. So there's a lot of great opportunities out there for student athletes to find the right fit. Again, poll results speak volumes, right? The poll says that most of your athletes probably are Division II, Division III, and really the majority of student athletes go to a level that's not Division I. Like, if we do the math, right, the majority of student athletes go to a level that's not D1. And I think it's important for you guys, get out, watch those programs play, create relationships with those coaches, because you're going to have more student athletes that go that level than maybe to one of these three programs, although I'd love for them all to head that way. I think we're probably getting close here. I know it's been over an hour, but Coach Depking, Mal, Tyler, thank you guys so much. Coach Depking, anything you just want to add, into this that you don't think we hit on enough, or any advice for the coaches? Because again, this is a coach's audience. Any advice for the coaches who have joined this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, our biggest thing is, I think tuitions are getting crazy. I think you're seeing some of these $70,000-$80,000 a year to go to school like that. Those are crazy numbers. And I think that there's tons of financial aid out there, and I think a lot of people don't know about it. And again, it just goes back to, who cares where this money comes from? You get $10,000 academic money, you get $50,000 financial aid, and then a coach only has to throw out 30% to get you covered fully. 30% for a lot of coaches, you put us in a spot to say it's a win-win situation, right? Like, we're not like, that's an easy decision. The hard decisions are when you have to give out the big numbers, and you're kind of going back and forth on, like, is this kid, does she like line up with 60%, 70%, which is going to eat a lot out of your scholarship. So I'm just really, really big on the financial aid piece. There's financial aid calculators out there that you can plug your information into, and you can get this information. Don't try and lie and put information in there that's not accurate. The more you understand, the more you'll know which programs you can go to. Some programs, I'm just going to go back to Dartmouth real quick. Dartmouth was really interesting because Dartmouth took into consideration, again, no scholarships, took into consideration home asset, right? How much equity you had in a house, where Harvard, Yale, and Princeton did not look at home equity. However, Dartmouth had what was called Ivy League matching. So if I was recruiting a kid that Harvard was recruiting, Dartmouth would match Harvard's package, which Harvard doesn't look at home equity. So then I was able to get the same package that they would give, because they have a bigger endowment, right? And again, you get the kid more money so that they're not paying as much. So the more you know about how these financial aid things work, everybody has calculators, whether it's an Ivy League, whether it's a place like Syracuse, you can go find this information, help your kids out, understand that you allow these easy decisions for coaches when all you got to do is come out of pocket 10%, 20%, because they're going to be covered with the other, 50,000, 60,000 we've seen. I just think it's a huge, huge opportunity that is really, really missing. And I don't think a lot of travel ball coaches know about it, and it's super easy to find out.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that we spent a number of our answers talking about the academic side of the recruiting process, because of how important that plays into things. NCSA does have a sister company called collegeadvisor.com that's a great resource. They have some amazing free essay writing tutorials and financial aid calculators, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of opportunity, and it is also built in the team edition resources section. There are about 50 different articles about scholarships, admissions, essays, financial aid, and that process. Mal, I'm going to throw a bit of a question to you to wrap up for you. Any advice for these coaches to give to parents? Because I always tell coaches, like, there's a resources section in Team Edition. And by the way, the resources section was initially developed by Mal, so kudos to you. It has changed a little bit, but there is a part in our resources section that's 12 different videos with information. The NCSA produced videos that parents should watch about, should I email coaches? Should I do this? Should I do that at events? That kind of thing. And I always tell coaches, I would make sure that you send those videos to your parents before you ever play in a tournament. Make sure they understand the expectations on recruiting. But from your perspective, Coach, like, any advice for these travel ball coaches to give to their parents about the process?
Yeah, I mean, just number one, you're all saints, because dealing with parents is one of the hardest things that you're going to do, especially in this critical time of their lives where it feels like the sky is falling at every moment for them. So just thanks for what you do, helping get them to us. I think it has to be a healthy balance of informed involvement. There are those parents, and this is maybe a little bit less, but I used to talk to families at NCSA where they were like, it's her deal, she's going to do it all. And then the ones that were completely hands-on running the Twitter account for their daughter. So it has to be a healthy balance, because ultimately, for a lot of those parents, they're the ones that are writing the check at the end of the day, or their daughter's the one that's signing the loan papers. So they have to know what's going on and be involved, because that decision can't just be their daughter's. It has to be a family decision. But I would also, encourage them that this should be fun at the end of the day. It's a game. I know it's college. I know it's 40 years after school, but this should be really fun. They should take it as kind of an adventure. When they go to a tournament, it should be like, let's go visit a college while we're here, and not for the purpose of, we need to stock that softball coach while we're on their campus, but like, we've never seen Butler before. We're playing at Westfield. Why don't we just drive through campus and see if this is even the kind of school that you would like? Encourage them to take that on as an experience, and remind them that this is supposed to be fun and ultimately supposed to be what their daughter wants to pursue. I think that was probably the hardest part, having been a travel coach, was seeing kids that were kind of waffling or so stressed or put upon by other expectations on their shoulders that it wasn't fun for them, or they couldn't perform. So reminding them that, the car ride home doesn't have to be about what you did while, Dartmouth was there watching you. It can be about like, hey, I thought you were a really great teammate today. And, what are the character values that are being instilled in them at home, as opposed to just whether or not they're getting recruited.
And I think we probably all have seen these videos on social media. Parents are being recruited too, right? Like you're being watched as a parent in the stands, or when you come to campus, right? They want to know about you. College coaches want to know about you. While the focus is on the student athlete, they also want to know about you. They want to know what you're going to be like when your daughter is a part of the program and a part of the team. I think that's something that is really important to remind all your parents. It is about the student athletes, and the way that you act during this process, it matters, right? I would prefer that a parent never ruins an opportunity for their daughter, right? But it happens, and it's an unfortunate piece to this puzzle, but it's real. And got to remember that when these kids go off to college, when these student athletes go off to college, they are in the care of these coaches, and how the parents act in this process is a huge piece to it. Coach Bratton, I want to give you, an opportunity as well. Anything that you don't think we hit on enough, or anything that you'd like to just cement that you think is a really important piece for these coaches who have joined and who are trying to support their young people?
Yeah, I think, one thing that coaches can do to help us, we're kind of in the age of, well, we can't talk to recruits until September 1st of their junior year. So how can we let them know that, hey, the door opens both ways, right? How can we let you guys know that we do like what we saw, even though we couldn't maybe talk to you at the tournament, or we didn't get a chance to talk to you at the tournament? We want to do, hey, we did like your shortstop. So we're looking at the profile sheet. Okay, the email is on there, but how can we get the address, the home address? And that's kind of the next phase that you're starting to see really take off the last probably 2 or 3 years. We used to not do it this way, but now there's a lot of questionnaires being mailed out. There's a lot of camp invites being mailed out. We're kind of going back to how it was 15, 20 years ago. And now, we went away from it. Now it's kind of back to it with the current landscape of the September the 1st of the junior year for Division I kids. And so being able to track down home addresses, if you guys could help with that part of it, I think that's huge. It helps us out, because then we can send, your kid, hey, here's a camp invite. And now they're like, okay, well, Mississippi State, maybe they are actually interested too. I don't want to just waste, $1,000 to get down there and back. I know that there's a little bit of interest both ways on that. So I think, being able to have that and being able to easily access that information, I think probably goes a long way too.
Yeah, great point. And for those coaches on there, encourage your student athletes to build an NCSA profile, because those contact deliverables, right? Address, phone number for your parents, email addresses for parents, email addresses for student athletes, all that information, social media accounts, that all is on that profile. And again, for Alliance members and for those student athletes, like build that profile, because that becomes profile that college coaches can search and view when they're at an event that's using Coach Packet, USSSA, USA Softball, Triple Crown. Like these are events that use Coach Packet as the digital recruiting booklet at the event. So keep that in mind. I'll throw it to Jamie. Jamie, anything to add about kind of what we heard tonight and just this process, which we know is ever evolving, right? Tyler made a great point, like it kind of has recycled itself where addresses are more of a thing now. But anything to add just from your experience and what the Alliance is doing with recruiting?
I think first off, thank you to our three coaches for just spending the time. And I'm making notes too, and just little nuggets that you guys have dropped. Obviously, the recruiting process has changed. It continues to change. So I think staying updated is the most important. And I was interested when with the poll, and we had a question of, where are you as a coach in the recruiting process? And a large majority, they're brand new. They haven't had a player commit or sign yet. So clearly they're looking for, how do I get started? How do I begin to develop those relationships? And I think you guys hit on a ton of really important information of just how they can get started and how they can build relationships. And then I would think these coaches are on here because they want to help their athletes. So that's exactly what we want to do. And that's why we've partnered with NCSA. Our role as the Alliance is to bring you trusted resources and exactly like this information. So John, thank you for putting this together. Mallory, Shannon, Tyler, you guys are awesome. Super appreciative of you guys just sharing. Clearly you're all committed to helping these athletes as well, and these coaches.
And there's so much education out there, guys. If you don't have a Team Edition account for your travel ball team, ncsasports.org/team, very easy to get to. Make your account. You can call me or you can email me, jpuglisi@ncsasports.org. I'm happy to talk with anybody and communicate. We have an amazing team with NCSA Team Edition. People just like Shannon and Tyler and Mallory and Jamie, like people just care about the student athletes and supporting coaches. We do recruiting education webinars. It's not going to cost you anything. Again, this is an opportunity. All of your athletes can have a free NCSA profile, build out that resume that college coaches can see. You can learn through the process. And I think that's the best thing about this partnership and having relationships like we do with these college coaches who are on here. Again, I wasn't.
John, can I get you on record? Because there is the free that all Alliance members
get. Yes.
But if I understand correctly,
I wasn't there yet. Yes.
Alliance gives you the best price possible.
Yes. So NCSA Team Edition is free for coaches. That does not change. Athletes can have free NCSA profiles. That's really easy to do. If you'd like all of your athletes to have premium NCSA profiles, which comes with a ton of resources, tools, access to recruiting education, a message center. I think the best thing that the NCSA profile has is the opportunity to look up and research schools, what they offer academically, what the demographics are like of the school, that kind of information. But we do have a special Alliance price. It's the only partner that we have that gets this price. It's a 50% discount. So rather than all your athletes having free NCSA profiles, they can have premium profiles for $780 for the year, which is an incredible discount. And if you're interested, again, jpuglisi at ncsasports.org, I'd be happy to talk with you and talk you through it. But the Alliance is our only partner that has that opportunity, and we feel really fortunate. I mean, we are the largest network in the world that student athletes and college coaches use, and now that travel ball coaches and softball use. The Bombers, Texas Bombers program, they use NCSA Team Edition. Texas Glory, Starters Softball. There's programs, South Jersey Mystics. There's programs across the country that are giving their athletes the opportunity to use NCSA profiles in their recruiting process, and we know that it's making a difference. So, coaches, thank you so much for joining. Travel ball coaches, thank you so much for joining. I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate the opportunity to do this. These are my favorite webinars to do, and I know a lot of people are webinared out, but coaches, thank you for spending this time with us. And Coach Debkin, Coach Winters, Coach Braden, we from everybody who joined, we appreciate you guys so much. So thank you.